guys, welcome to the vlog, and today I thought we could do a 10 tips vlog on handheld shooting. And if you follow my channel, you'll know that I really don't like doing handheld shooting, but sometimes it's really beneficial to do handheld shooting for a number of reasons. More convenient, you can do more sort of random shots that you see when you're walking around. So it has its benefits as well as its disadvantages. Sometimes you might get blurred pictures and stuff. So I thought I could do a top 10 handheld tip. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, well, tip number 1, body position. Your body is basically your tripod. So what you're going to want to do is you want to be able to stand with your legs sort of down if possible, if you're doing a standing shot I suppose. If you're kneeling, you want to fix your legs so that you're not balancing, sort of thing. Now the camera, both hands, some people hold it with the lens like this, elbows in and to the eye. If you've got glasses on, touch your glasses with the viewfinder, because that will help stable the shot as well. So elbows in, firm grip on your camera. Okay, and now you can pivot your body to move, obviously up and down. So that's your body position. So body position is our tip number 1, and I'm going to give that a go and see how we get on. Okay, tip number 2 is our shutter speed. Okay, tip number 2 is our shutter speed, and that's very important. So a lot of people say set your shutter speed to your focal length of your lens. So if I'm shooting at say 100, that's a 100mm lens, just for easiest sake, I should be shooting at 100/1, so 100th of a second minimum. But a lot of people say to times that by 2, so to shoot at 200th of a second. So you really want somewhere between 100 and 200. Preferably the faster the better. So if you can get to over 200, go for it. This is up to a 300mm lens, so that would mean I would need 600 speed shutter, which makes sense really. And you can times that with your crop sensor as well. You've got to take that into account. So if you're 1.5 crop sensor, then you times the focal length by that, 1.5. Full frame, just 1, it's easy. So shutter speed is really important, and that will help you get sharp shots. I think we're up to tip number 3 now. I've lost count. But anyway, the next tip is to utilise your camera's stabilization features. Now the R8 doesn't have in-body stabilization, which is a bit of a bummer. I didn't really think I'd need it because I'm not normally a handheld shooter. So something to think about. However, the lens does have stabilization, so you want to utilise that to help you with your handheld, especially if you're in low light. So yeah, so utilise what your camera's got. Most cameras have it, so you want to look into that. I don't know what camera you've got, but if it's got it, use it. We'll move on. Number 4. Now, I have briefly mentioned this before, is your breathing. Breathing is so important. If you're puffed out or out of breath, just let yourself calm down so you can manage your breathing, especially if you've got heart failure. You're going to be panting a lot, because if you've got an illness, you're not really going to notice that you're panting because you get used to it. It becomes your normal. So you want to be aware of the breathing. I'm going to take a shot here, focusing on my breathing and my body position. And I'm standing upright because I pant more when I'm down on my knees. So, elbows in, breathe in. So, you might not notice it, so I'm getting too close. You might not notice it when you're taking the shot, because obviously you're just used to breathing. So you want to just be conscious of it. Your body has got to be still as possible. Breathing is very important. Do it on the inhale, take your shot, and then exhale, or the other way around. And you'll get a fairly clean shot. We'll move on. Okay guys, tip number 6. Focal point, your focus point. You really need to focus on it and be aware of it all the time, really important. This camera, I've set it to back button focusing. In other words, on the release, I don't need to press it very slightly to get the focus point active. I just got that on the meter end. My star button on the back of the camera is what I use to set the focus point. And I can focus on something with the back button and then reposition and then take my shot. And the focus will hold on the point that I set. I do that because I don't want to be soft pressing and then moving, because it's easy to muck up on the button. So back button focusing is very, very useful. A lot of photographers use it, and loads of videos on how to set that up. So that's your focus point, really important. Make sure it's in focus, set it, hold it, position, body position, everything else, and then a mini burst, boom, 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 you'll get your shot. That's a fairly easy one. Okay, we'll move on, just as I'll take this shot. Okay, tip number 6. Something in my head's telling me I told you the last one was 6. This is tip number 6. Burst mode. Now, normally you'd think of using burst mode for action shots, and indeed you do. You just need it for those fast moving shots, sport photography, birds in flight, all that sort of thing, moving objects. So why would you need burst mode for stationary objects like that tree back there? Well, it's because of your movement, my movement. You want to get that burst mode because there's going to be one shot in that burst that's going to be tack sharp, you hope. If you follow these tips, it will be. So, burst mode, really important. Yes, you're going to use a lot more of your card, but definitely worth it. So set your camera to burst mode. if you've got a camera like this one where you can set the speed of your burst mode, you know, there's multiple burst modes. There's like normal, there's hyper fast and all that stuff. Yeah, you don't really want it on need it on hyper fast for this type of photography, just as long as it's a burst mode, and then you're more likely to get a good sharp image. So that's what I'm going to do. Right guys, tip number 7. I'm waiting for that sun to come out to illuminate the back of that tree. Tip number 7, mind your ISO. Now the ISO on here at the moment is on auto because I'm in shutter priority. But you can set your maximum limits for your ISO. The higher the ISO rises, the more noise you're going to introduce into your shot. However, there is ways of getting rid of the noise, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. So you do need to keep an eye on your ISO. Most modern cameras handle ISO really well, a lot better than the olden days. I had nightmare issues with ISO back in the day, but nowadays it's really good. So if it's gone up into 1600, it's normally fine. It's just when it gets up into the ridiculous numbers, you'll want to keep an eye on it. If you find your ISO is going up, you need to introduce more light, either into your camera, setting your f-stop down to the lower numbers. That'll bring more light in, but also it means you'll get more background blur. Or the other way of dealing with ISO is your environment. Try and get into more brighter environment, and that will help your camera cope with light. So ISO, be really mindful of it. To be fair, I haven't really looked at it too much on this shoot, but now and again I do take a look just to make sure it's not going above. But I do have a maximum limit set. I can't remember what it is, but I think it's something like 6400. I've got it set at, so it doesn't go above that. But you can obviously set lower numbers for that to help you out. So ISO, very, very important setting, because that's what brings the noise into your picture. Sun's on its way out. I'm going to take this shot. Turn the camera on. Oh dear. Not really illuminated as much as it was. ISO on here is 640 at the moment. Let's take another shot. I'm repositioning, and I've just realised I'm not standing the way I've been teaching. So there you go. Just try and be mindful of your body position. Here we go. There. What I like about this shot is the crisscross of the branch there. How the branch is falling down, it's making it like a cross. But it was nicely backlit from the sun, but it's very cloudy. We'll move on. Tip number 8. Choose the right lens for the job. Tricky one really, because of money, financials. Choose the right lens for the job. If you want a dark environment, obviously you want a nice fast lens, in other words like f1.2, f1.8, f4 maybe. If you're getting up into the higher f-stops like f11, you're running into trouble with handheld because of the less light. So you want to think about the lens that you're using and the lens that you pick for your handheld shots. So that is an aspect of handheld. This lens, however, having me said all that, is an old lens. It's a 75-300. It's a variable aperture of something ridiculous. I'm trying to see if it's written on it. It's not. Hopefully I'll put it up on the screen, but it's ridiculous apertures on it. It's a slow lens, so it's harder. Hence my ISOs are slightly higher. So you do need to think about your lens. The faster the lens, obviously the sharper your images are going to be handheld. What else could I say about the lens? If possible, if you've got the money, you want a fixed aperture. You want to be able to set it, say, f4 and zoom in and it'll still be f4. Wouldn't that be great? Really nice lens. If you've got a variable aperture, from zooming out, you might be on what, f.4.7 or something, and then you zoom in and you're before you know it, you're f8 or f9. So variable apertures are fiddly, but they're okay, but not the best, but they do the job and they're cheaper. But if you can get a fixed aperture, man, if you've got the money for a nice fixed aperture lens, very nice, and you'll enjoy it. Because can you imagine it, f4, zooming in and you're still at f4 or whatever. Brilliant. Yeah, so think about your lens and your environment. So if you've got a really slow lens, think about your environment, the light. That's always what it boils down to. If you've got a nice fast lens, go for it. Nighttime photography. Yeah, so think about what lens you've got, your environment, and pick the right lens for that environment, or expect to adjust your settings accordingly and follow all the tips. Yeah, we'll move on, crack on with it, shall we? Oh, I suppose I should turn you guys off so you're instantly teleported back. Tip number 9, be mindful of your composition. It's very easy to sort of forget, because you're concentrating on your position, your elbows in, your breathing, and the settings and stuff. And it's easy to overlook your composition, which is the whole point of your picture. You've seen something that you want to shoot. So you just want to be mindful of the composition all the time. That's the main goal of the picture after all. Make sure that you've got the light in your composition, the light that you want, and everything's in place. Because obviously if you're too busy thinking about your body movement and stuff, that's why a lot of people forget about their body movement, because they're thinking about the composition too much. Like me, I'm guilty of it. There's a lot to think about, especially if you don't do handheld that often. Composition all the time. Have it in your mind all the time. So focus point, composition, move your camera to where it's got to be, take your shot. Very important. That's tip number 9. And we'll move on to tip number 10. Finally, tip number 10. Tip number 10 is easy, really easy. It's basically practice and consistency. The more that you do handheld photography, the better you're going to become, and the more natural it's going to become. You're no longer going to be thinking about your position, body position, and your elbows and all the other stuff. It's just going to become natural, allowing you to focus on your compositions. So tip number 10, do it quite a lot. I'm guilty of that. I'm a tripod shooter, but I must say I've really enjoyed the handheld shoot. It's a lot more flowy and spontaneous than having to get your tripod out, set it all up, compose the shot, taking the shot. Handheld is so much more fluent. Really worth a go. I'm going to do a lot more of it. Enjoyed it. The only thing is, this camera, the f8 R8, doesn't have in-camera stabilization, and it would be a lot better if it did, I must say. But we do what we must. I'm going to take this shot. Not the best shot in the world. Nearly did it myself then. There we go, nice and focused. Okay. I might have to get a manual on this one. $200. I need a higher f-stop, so that means less light in the camera. Let's see if I can pull this off. Here we go, right. Ooh. Not bad, not bad. And that was in manual. That's it. Then move on. Thanks for joining me on this vlog. Hope you learned something, even if it's just a little thing. Please like and subscribe to the channel, because it always helps, especially the subscribe part. It's free for a limited time only. It's free to subscribe. No, I'm just kidding. It really does help and appreciate it, especially if you've got this far in the video. Brilliant. That's really good. I'll try and do some more of these top tip videos. 10's quite a lot, I think. 10 tips. Maybe we'll do a top 5 tips next time. Yeah. Anyway, happy shooting. Shoot a lot. That's the last tip. Do it often. Take care out there. And see you next time.